Now we are going to introduce our speaker. Yay, Woody, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, Woody Cline has a 4-year term, and he's 2 years into it now, almost. And we have been happy with Woody Cline as supervisor of District 3, which is the south part of Payson, Star Valley, all the way up to Coles Ranch and Christopher Creek. Do we go as far as Forest Lakes?
No, we don't go on top of the rim, but we go away to White Mountain Patches.
To White Mount Apaches and Young and a little part of Globe?
Part of Globe and then back to San Carlos.
And San Carlos, yeah.
And all the way around to Winkleman and Hayes.
So he's got a huge district to travel. So we're very grateful that he came here this evening. And Kathy Nelson? Melvin. Kathy Melvin is his assistant. So if you ever call his office down at Globe, you'll get Kathy. Okay? It's a good thing he has an assistant because he needs all the help he could get traveling here and there and everywhere. Okay, so come on up, Woody Cline.
Thank you, guys.
You might give your apology because the computer's frozen.
Yeah, we had it all planned to put this on the wall with a PowerPoint presentation, and our computer froze up when we pulled it up. So technology at the best, I guess. So we have handouts. Kathy's going to hand out a couple different ones. And so I'll just follow through with that. As I'm going through all this tonight, you guys have any questions, just stop me and ask me, you know, so you don't have to wait till the end of it to ask anything, just holler and we'll address it and go on. That would make it a lot easier for me, and that way you guys won't forget at the end to bring it up, so we'll be good. Shirley's right, I'm just about halfway into this term. And it's been a busy 2 years. We've been really, really busy. There's certain things that I campaigned on and ran on when I ran for this position, and I've got to tell you straight up, I've been able to accomplish those so far, and I'm really happy that I've been able to do that. And so what I'm going to start with first was right after I took office. Each of us supervisors have a line item in our budget called constituent funds. I think a lot of you probably know what those are. And so it's $100,000 in each of our funds as supervisors that we can spend on 501c3s, programs, help towns, help reservations, whatever it is, at our discretion. We still have to abide by all the state laws on it and all that, but that's what we have. And so when I took office, just right after, every time I turn around, there's somebody holding out their hand wanting money. And a lot of it was coming from our senior centers. They were hurting for money. And so as we got into office, I had Kathy start checking on this because I was wondering, why would our senior centers be in such a hole, you know, needing money like they were? Well, they've been cut. Their budgets have been cut. And so they were just operating barely on a shoestring of what they could pull together from donations and everywhere else. So we sat down and we pulled all the reports and did everything through the county that had been given to the senior centers in Gila County. And it came up to like $128,000. That's what was given to senior centers. So what I did was I went back and we took $150,000 out of our general fund budget and put it in a line item that went straight to our senior centers. And it'll go to our senior centers every year unless for some reason us as a board or a new board votes that out. And that has been a big plus for our senior centers. And what else we did, we pulled all the directors from the senior centers into one room with the area manager that's over them and told them, okay, we're going to give you this money to help you guys operate and function on, but we're not going to tell you how to spend it or where to spend it. We want you guys to do that as a group. You guys sit down and figure out how much money goes to the senior center in Hayden, or the one in Payson, or the one in Miami, whatever it is. You guys do it. We don't want to do that. And they did. And they did a really good job of it. And it worked really well. You know, I wish we could do more, but for right now, that's about all we can do. And it's been a big help for them. It's not that they still don't need more to operate on and whatnot, but this at least pulled them out of a hole and got them going on that. So that was one thing I was really proud to do. The other board members supported me on this, and we voted it through as a county. And so even as we go into this budget season this year, if you pull up our budget, you should see it in there still as a line item in that budget. And I just can't say enough about our senior centers and what they do for people out there. You know, it's not only the Meals on Wheels part of it, or Mom's Kitchen, or whatever it is there, it's the connection they have with the people when they deliver those meals. In a lot of places in our county, those folks that are receiving those meals, they don't see anybody else except those senior center employees that's volunteer to work it. So it's been a really big plus on that. And we're going to continue that. We're not going to back off of that. That one's going to stay. And hopefully we can, as the years go by, maybe eventually we can do more for them. Is what we'd like to do. So that's been a big plus. Any questions on that? You guys have any suggestions? I don't know if any of you work with the senior centers or not, but we're always open for any suggestions, or if you have questions at any time, like Shirley said, you can give my office a call, and Kathy will be the one that picks it up. If you need, you can call me in Young, whatever it is, and we can discuss some more of it. But so anyway, hang on just a minute here. I can't see without those. Barely see with them. We ended up, all of our senior centers were in this deal, including Pine. Pine is just a small setup up there, but we went ahead and rolled them in there also. So you got Payson, Star Valley, Miami, Hayden, Pine, Globe, all in this mix. So it's been a really good deal. I think I got it on that one. The other thing I did when I was campaigning is, if you remember, I was real big into our youth, our kids. You know, just up to the point when I started campaigning, it was obvious that what we were doing for our kids needed to be improved. It was hard to find people to help, or these kids to help or get jobs, and it just seemed like everything was changing. So I really started on this when I first got in office. I wanted to start a youth program in the county. Going in January, like I did, I only had a little handful of those constituent dollars left from the previous incumbents that were there. They'd spent it down to where we just had a little bit. But still, we pulled together and was able to get a few kids funded that first summer. And I think it was a tune of, 17 kids? And we put them to work in different places around the county. And then, when the end of the year rolled around, we started ramping up on those kids and those numbers. But what it comes out to is these kids, when we push this summer youth program, it's a 6-week program, it costs us about $3,000, a little over $3,000 a kid to run them through the summer. And so what we did was, we went around to all the towns and one school in Young, and pulled up some IGAs with them, some agreements with them. So what we do is we hire these kids. These kids go to work for the town of Payson, town of Star Valley, the town of Globe, the school in Young, Hayden down there. Winkleman and Hayden both, they hired kids right there with the towns. And they work them for the 6 weeks. And then we pay the wages on that. And what they do is, at the end of that 6 weeks, they invoice us, and we reimburse them for the cost. So for $3,000 a kid, they get 6 weeks of employment. I can tell you it's been a good thing for a lot of these kids. Some have excelled in it. I mean, we still have a few that, yeah, they don't really like that. I mean, it's not their cup of tea working, but, you know, but we've had them. We had, I think did we have one with you last year, Sheriff?
We wanted to hire him at the end of the year.
There you go. We had one in the county attorney's office. We had another one in our health department. And what we do is these kids apply, and then Kathy and our HR ladies, they go in and interview those kids. And they really ask them, what are you interested in? What do you want to become? Are you going to school for something in particular? And then they work hard at placing these kids where they have that interest. And by doing that, it's been a big plus. I want to see more kids, but we started with the 17 the first year, and I paid for that out of constituent funds. That's where my funds went, was into those kids. The second year, which was just last year, we were up to 32, 33 kids. And so we increased that. This year, I was hoping to hit 50. I don't think we're going to hit 50. It's going to be somewhere between 30 and 40, I would guess. And so we just look for ways we can continue to improve this and put more kids out there to work. I can tell you guys that, like up here in Payson, we have a hard time getting the kids to apply for the jobs that we have. Everywhere else south of here, we have lots of applicants, a lot of applicants. And so we worked at the schools up here this year pretty hard. We're going to continue to do that and try to get in there and get more of those youngsters to apply and get in on this. I don't know if it's because there's a lot of fast food jobs or whatever it is around Payson that they have a lot of work already. I'm not sure, but we're going to try and ramp that up. Also, what had happened after last year was, like the town of Payson, we put in 4 kids in the town of Payson. The town of Payson, I think you guys are looking at 2 or 4 more besides that, if we can get the applicants. So they doubled the number of kids. We're paying for 4, Payson was looking at paying for 4. And so that has happened in different places already. I can't say enough about that program either. It's a real big plus. It gives these kids something to do. And I know that there's been some people get a little bit frustrated because they'll get a kid comes in that doesn't really understand, you know, how to work, or that they've got to be there all day, or they got to come back after lunch, or they're not going to get paid until the end of the pay period. But, you know, so, I mean, there's some frustrations in this, but like I keep telling everyone, that's what it's all about. That's why we're doing this, is to teach these folks that, yeah, you do have to be there all day to get paid, and you do have to show up for work and dress right and everything else. And in the middle of this program, in the middle of the 6 weeks, what we do is we pick a place and we pull them all together for the day. We have just a day, and we pull in motivational speakers for these kids to sit and talk to and listen to. Everybody gets in one big room where they can interact between them and the whole 9 yards. And that was a real plus. This year, we're looking at we're going to do it again. We're going to do that every year. We have this program in place. And so that has changed from the way we were funding it through our constituent money to where we funded it with a line item in our budget in the county. It's sitting in the budget. So that's going to be there too for these kids as long as hopefully I'm in office anyway. And then hopefully we can increase the number of kids we're working on. And so, you guys have any questions? Or yes, ma'am.
How are they paid? Are they paid at minimum wage? Everybody paid the same, or do they go in like an entry that might change depending on the job? Or?
No, they're all paid minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
Yeah.
It's all even.
Woody, are all of the jobs within the government, like in county, town, cities and stuff like this, they're all working for a government agency?
They are.
Okay.
And the reason we did that, we started with this, I like to work outside of that, but it gets into the lawyers and child labor laws and everything else. And so I really want to see us have the opportunity to put some of these folks in some private businesses, more or less. Yeah, and so I think they would really get more out of what we're trying to do than even now. But it's a little bit of a process that we're still hashing out and visiting with our lawyers and stuff about to see how we could draw up those IGAs or MOUs to cover this. And so, but hopefully that's where we're going. Was there another? Yes, ma'am.
What percentage are males and what percentage are females?
It varies. I would say last year, you think it was?
Probably more females than males. apply.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Probably more females applied than males. I haven't seen the list this year, and actually tomorrow morning Kathy is working with our HR people to up here to start interviewing applicants. So, but so it's been, yeah, Glenn.
I got a young man that I hadn't seen for a while, and then I found out he was in jail, and he got out, and he had the same clothes on for 6 days, he got out of jail, so he asked me for some money. I'm kind of known as easy touch, and I said, well, I got some work for you to do, and he worked, and he kind of so-so, and then I said, what was you in jail for? And he said, armed robbery. I hadn't seen him for a while, but then he went to tell me, he said, the first thing I'm gonna do is try to get my green card. He was illegal, and he's working here in town, and got someone else's job right now. Now, I guess he was telling me the truth. He done most of 4 years for armed robbery. He's illegal, and he's here on the street. So I know there's some of these guys slipped through the cracks. But he said, I said, I'll put you up for the night, but you gotta let me talk to your probation officer first. He wouldn't give me his name. So he's now working over at Delta.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. There's that happens. Our age on these folks are 16 to 21. Now, there's another program here in Gila County, and it's a partnership between us and Navajo, and it's a state-type program. It's Arizona at Work, and we call it WIOA. And this program can actually take young adults, even if they've been in trouble. Matter of fact, they kind of look for those folks that have been in trouble, have paid their price, gotten out, and trying to get on their feet and get started. So we've worked with them trying to place some of these folks in different positions too. And so between the Arizona Work Program and ours, if as we hopefully will get more applicants, we're going to be able to place these folks and they can place them in private businesses and things like that where we can. And so it makes a pretty good partnership with us on that to work together on that. Yes, sir. Doug.
The Tea Party's talked about interesting more young people in, I guess, self-governance and politics as such. And is this something the Tea Party can help you to fill out your quota? How many can you take if you haven't reached your maximum? And what percentage your program is? How many do you have funding for, and how many more do you need?
Well, right now, the applications are closed, that process, and I think for the jobs that we have, we're gonna be somewhere in the 30s for positions. Now, Winkleman has said that they take more kids down there, and so I'm hoping maybe we can work something out like that. But it's gonna fluctuate a little bit from year to year on budgets, a lot of it is, and who these different towns and agencies, who they have working, who can work with the kids and so forth. I'm
Yes,
hoping.
we would be interested in the Payson area too.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I'm hoping is to keep building this. The problem I have, Doug, is this is a brand new program that it's not brand new to the county. The county actually did this years ago. And I think there's about 7 or 8 folks in the county right now, like Sherry and them, that came through this program. Yeah, that actually started in this and that now are holding positions inside the county that are pretty good positions. So I'm trying to build it, and that's been the hurdle. I go around and I talk to a lot of different people about this, and I can tell them what we've seen so far in the 2 years that we started, and it's getting better. And so I'm hoping in the next 2 or 3 years, it'll be up there where if there's a kid anywhere in Gila County that needs a job, we're gonna somewhere have a position for him. That's what I'm really hoping to find. And whether or not we get there, I don't know, but that's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do, yeah.
I'm sure that whoever designated the areas for supervisors 1, 2, and 3 left town as quickly as they could. But is it confusing to speak with a group this size, knowing that some of them are your, what do you call them?
Constituents.
Yes, and some of them are not. Is that a concern? I mean, I can't imagine who drew the lines up.
We're gonna have all 3 supervisors come and speak, so it doesn't much matter.
Do you want my version on how the lines got
Do you want to
drawn?
answer the question for me? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Tommy Martin will be here addressing.
Okay, thank you.
And so
Go
will
ahead.
Tim Humphrey.
Go ahead.
I told, I guess I can say this. I told a person not very long ago, we're talking about the boundaries, because I can honestly tell you, I have boundaries in Globe that I haven't figured out yet. And I've been in the county for 2 years. So as we were talking about this, I was talking to an individual about one day, and I said, you know what I think they did? And she looked at me and said, no, what? I said, I think they went to the bar, and they stuck a map on the wall, and after several drinks, they threw darts and drew lines. Because I can't imagine how else you would come up with this. Yeah, she got mad because one of her friends or family was a part of drawing the lines. I didn't know at the time, so. But that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
I was on that commission too, and I'll tell you, we had such a struggle with
Whoa.
those lines.
Oh.
Because you had to balance people by precinct and then by this and like that.
And so,
Is that your name called juryman?
Yes.
so that's, but you're right, the boundaries, I mean, there's parts of it, it's pretty cut and dry and easy to follow, but there's other parts between me and District 2 that are tough.
Yeah. And another thing, when we were on that redistricting commission, is at the time, 10 years ago, Arizona, the whole state, was under the civil rights oversight, and we had this guy we were working with who was a real pill. And we had to get all of the Indians into one district. That's why he picks up the Tonto Apache tribe, southeast Payson, all the way over the White Mountain Apaches and San Carlos. All had to be in one district because they needed representation greater than the other districts.
I've got all 3 reservations in front of me, but, so, you know, and it does raise a challenge, I'm not gonna,
But the guy we were
Sure.
working with from the US government was a real worker.
oh, I can imagine. So,
No, he worked for the Civil Rights Division. He was an attorney for the Civil Rights Division that was overseeing our county. Every Arizona county had their own oversight guy from the Civil Rights Commission. Go ahead.
so that's where we're at right now with this summer youth program. We're always looking for ideas or suggestions or whatever where we can help place these kids for employment. So anybody, if you got something, you got an idea, please let us know, because, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Do the 3 tribes get along, or do you have to not have communal functions together?
It depends. Yeah, there's days when they don't. Yeah, no, but, so, and the other thing of it is you've got family members that'll be on both tribes, let's say, and it's been a, Sheriff, it's
Very
sometimes a
difficult.
challenge. So going on, that was our summer youth program, so please, by all means, anybody has anything, let us know so we can work on this. The other thing that came up just not too long after I took office was the Forest Service combined the Pleasant Valley and Payson Ranger districts. You know, they've cut their budgets, they've cut their staffing down, they combined the districts. So what they did was, in a matter of about 6 months to a year, they pulled everybody out of Pleasant Valley and moved them all here to Payson. Well, prior to, or just during the time they combined was when they sold the property and everything here to the college. So, and then they had to go back and do whatever they needed to do and build a whole new admin site. And that's what you see, it's being built over here right now. So in the midst of all this, when I was talking to him about that site in Pleasant Valley, because there's one lady there right now that works there and a range tech, and that is it. And so I asked them, what are you going to do with this? Well, one of their options was to just turn it back to grass. And so there's several buildings on this, including residences and barracks, along with main offices. So I told them, no, we're not going to do that. Just hang tight and let me think about this. So I got with some people over there one day, and I was talking to them about a transit program there that they wanted to try and start in young. We're talking about, and one of the ladies that was the main deal on this transit program, we're sitting there, we're all done, and she said, you know, if I had all the money in the world and could do it, I would open an assisted living facility here. And I said, really? I said, okay. And she's an RN, retired RN. And I said, how big of a place do you think you would need? She said, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, meet me tomorrow and let me show you something. So I took her to the admin site and showed her the main building to start with. The main building's a little over 6,000 square feet. And so we looked at it, and she's like, oh, yeah, cool. Well, this would work. It could be remodified, yada, yada, yada. So I went to work on it. And the first thing I did was I went back to the Forest Service and said, okay, I got a mission for this property. We can repurpose it for the use of an assisted living facility. Well, they thought about that, and they said, well, all right, how much money are you guys going to pay us for it? I said, no, we're not paying you nothing for it. You guys have elected to pick up and move out of Young and come over here and rebuild a whole new admin site in Young rather than just stay there and work out of that. You combine districts, it doesn't matter which district you work off of. And, well, okay. So we went on with that and kept talking. Well, when I finally got in front of GOSAR and the rest of them, they're like, well, what about veteran programs and stuff like that? Or use and everything. I said, well, that's not a problem because a big part of our valley over there is veterans. A lot of them are veterans over there. So I said, yeah, it's going to be used for whoever there. Well, if you put veteran programs into that site, it'll make it a lot easier to get it transferred because they were really after places like that for veteran programs. Okay, so I went back and we regrouped, me and Kathy did, and we started in on this. And we ended up taking it all the way back to the top through the Forest Service, and I said, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to turn it into necessarily a assisted living facility right now. We're going to be looking at it for veteran programs and retreats. Okay, so local level, the Phoenix level, I skipped the region and went straight to the top at DC up there. So I met with the main chief, the head chief of the Forest Service one day. They're in DC, and we had these packets put together. Kathy had put these packets together, and we handed him a packet, and it was him and a guy in a suit and tie standing at the end of the table. And I had about 30 minutes with him, so I quickly explained and handed him this packet and said, this is what we want to do. I need to talk to you some more about it. Okay, fine. We left next day, get started with the conference and everything else we were doing there to find out that he had left office for sexual harassment. And so I'm sitting there thinking, well, that was a wasted packet, you know, but I still had hopes because they can't function without a chief, so whoever they detailed into that position as a chief would have our information, you know. But we came home and kind of regrouped again. They put a lady in there, Vicki Christensen, who used to be our head forestry lady for the state here in Arizona. She'd been here for about a year. And they detailed her in as the chief of the Forest Service. So we called up there and made an appointment with her to meet her. Next trip, me and Kathy go back to DC. We take some more packets with us because every time we come by a senator or representative, we're handing them packets and telling them about this. So we walk into her office to sit down with her, and it was her and her deputy, and there at the end of the table sits the same guy in the suit and tie that was with the other chief that had left. So I sit down and I started with her. I said, now, we handed Chief Took this packet. I guess you've had a chance to look at it and see it. And she's coming through. She said, no, I don't know anything about it. And I looked at the guy at the end of the table, and he's kind of looking off towards the window. I said, well, here, just keep that one. That's good. So I went and dove into it with her and said, you know, this is the site in Young. Gave her the whole history on it and how it is being abandoned and what they did with combining, and that the SO is all for it. Everybody's for it. And I said, now you're familiar with Young, right? Since you were, you know, the forestry lady here in Arizona. Yeah, I know where it's at. I said, okay. And her deputy was sitting beside me. And I said, I looked at Chris. I said, you know where Young is? Oh yeah, I know where Young is. He said, I came up through the ranks in Safford, and I detailed to Pleasant Valley on the hotshot crew in the 90s. I said, well then I've seen you before because I was the assistant fire management officer for the district. So we got talking, and also his family lives in Heber. And so he knew all about that area. So that made it really, really easy. So to make a long story short, we came back, we have had not any opposition, so we came back, well, it's not gonna be a short story. We hired a guy out of Casa Grande. Kathy knew him real well, and he worked for Kirkpatrick and a lot of these others, and he's a retired veteran himself, and he always worked in veteran programs with whoever staff he was on. We put him on contract, and I told him, I said, we need a plan for this site and programs we can do for this site. So he went around taking it to all the different VA meetings that he had and meeting with people and promoting this site. So out of all this, up pops a group out of Tucson. It's the American Patriots Memorial Group. And they jumped up and said, we want to do it. We're interested in this. We want to do this. Well, they're tied in with the Gold Star group out of DC, the Gold Star families. And so then they took it a little bit further and included Gold Star families for the military, fire, and law enforcement. That's what they did. Plus the VA programs. They deal with all that. And so what we're doing Saturday, June 1st, this coming Saturday, is we're having a big meeting down there. They're coming up to look at the site on the ground with us and walk through everything and see if they're still interested in doing this. I kind of wonder after they drive those dirt roads, but we'll see, you know, and take a look at it on the ground. And then our intention is for the county to take the ownership of this property. There's going to be about 90 acres and multiple buildings and barns and stuff like that. Is for the county to take the ownership, but get a group like this that comes in and does the programs. We have no business running those kind of programs. And so, but as long as we have the ownership, if a group goes south or something, or we have to change, we can do that because we're still going to own that property, and that property won't be cut up or divided or whatever it is. So that's our goal. And June 1st, we're going to have a town hall meeting in Young that afternoon. I've got the veterans group there locally all set up for a lunch deal with this group to sit down around the tables and talk about the different programs and whatnot that could be looked at in this. During our trip in DC, we sat down with the Veteran Administrative Services people there and spoke with 3 of them and talked about the different options we'd have, like to bring somebody up for administrative services, somebody, you know, the bus to come in for medical type treatments and things like that. Put them on tour on like a circuit where they could come in there certain days. So we're going to try and pull all that together and get this going. Hopefully, it's going to work out. I think it will. We still have a lot of questions we have to answer that this group's going to have to answer. I know the people in Pleasant Valley have a lot of questions for them, and so it ought to be an interesting day. But if we can repurpose that site for what we're wanting to do, it'll be a huge plus. And then this site, from what they're telling us right now, this site will become the first one in the nation for the Gold Star family programs. And so if that works out, then I'm really gonna be happy. Doug?
Can you define, in case someone isn't aware, the difference between Blue Star and Gold Star mothers and why this is important?
Well, Blue Star is the law enforcement, right?
No, it's
No?
not. Anybody that's in the military.
Anybody.
A
And the
mother,
Gold
father,
Star
someone
is,
who's in the military.
and the Gold Star is the ones on the wars.
Gold Star is a family member who has lost
Right.
a service member in the military.
Okay, so I had it a little bit backwards there. So, yeah, so that's what, that's,
A retreat is really valuable to this group because of their loss.
right,
And of course, even Blue Star mothers, if they could participate because those are the wounded.
right. And they will be able to through this. We've talked about that. And the other thing with this site, what has been hard, you know, with, some of you don't know Pleasant Valley very well, but there's only certain things that would fit in that little valley. This would fit, and when the Forest Service pulled out of that valley, they took 60 to 70 jobs with them when they left.
That's hard.
That's a big hit for a little town like that. So if these folks are serious and can pull this out of the hat, and we can do this, this is gonna bring some jobs back in for the valley. And that's been a big plus for us. That'd be really good. So I'm looking forward to that actually getting done, and we can go on with it. Yeah,
How are they gonna get their funding to do the programs?
they're saying grants, and that's one of my questions, you know, because what we're looking at and talking about with this program, it's gonna be fairly big. And so they have assured us they can get the grants to pull it off, but you know, Jim, as well as anybody, that can be a hit and miss deal sometimes. And so these are the type of questions that I, for one, have for the group, you know, is you get this started, how are you gonna make sure it continues and grows and all that? They're excited about it, and they claim they've been looking into this site and everything, you know, but they've yet to be there on the ground.
We actually have an expert here in town who has done this quite some time and has been successful in doing this, but she does it on property.
Mm-hmm.
What I'll do is I'll give you guys a call and then we can chat on some stuff.
Absolutely. You know, I'm for talking to everybody I can talk to about it. And we have talked to a lot about it. Yeah.
Is it like an open house, or is it just for the people that are gonna be involved in trying to make this come together?
No, it is open to whoever wants to
To
come
the
to
general
it.
public?
Yeah, now the one at lunch, I've held it just to that veteran group right there. But if there's any other veterans that want to come over and be a part of it, I'm not gonna turn them away. I'd take them in there in a heartbeat. Now, and then that afternoon at the high school, we're gonna have a general meeting on it. There was two things this group really wanted to do. They wanted to definitely talk to all the local veterans, and they wanted to talk to the town people. And so, I'm all for it. And we've been pushing it in Young now for about a month, when this really started. And I keep telling them, you know, think about this. Think of the questions you want to ask. Don't be bashful. We gotta ask these questions and answer them, you know, and be comfortable with what's gonna happen here. And so, I think for the most part, I'm hoping it'll be a good turnout that afternoon, but by all means, anybody that's interested, you're welcome. And if you're a veteran, want to come over and have lunch with us, come on. Yeah. Yes?
The county assumed responsibility, or took over the ownership. Does that mean that the county would then be responsible for the maintenance of the buildings and utility costs?
Yes, it could, but that's not what I'm looking at. Exactly. And so what I'm looking at, really, and nothing is set in stone right now. Everything's still on the table. But you know, when you have multiple buildings like that, maintenance is an issue. I mean, we have multiple offices around town that I can tell you is a nightmare sometimes. But one of the things that in my mind I keep looking at is to make this simple. If this group comes in, then in that contract, they assume all the maintenance and responsibility for the buildings, and maybe not paying anything as far as dollar-wise to be there. You know, we can do that.
That's what we do with the little building that we rent out from the school district. We have a piece of property that They do all the maintenance.
Mhm.
They pay $1 a year, but they do all the
Right.
maintenance
Mhm.
and all
Right.
the utilities and all that kind of stuff.
I want to make this work for all the people that will be using it. I mean, I'm not after this for the county to make money off of it. I'm after it so that it doesn't get tore down and it can be used for purposes like this. And so the easier I can make it for a group like this that wants to come in, as long as it's on paper, I'm all for it. So anyhow, so that's where that's at. That's what we're gonna do with that. Well, that's what we're trying to do with that.
Woody,
Yes?
just curious question.
Uh-huh.
Do you have, how big a hospital facility is the helicopter services and all that, do you have it now?
We have a medical center that's open one day of the week, and we got 3 helipads in Young. So I can already tell you that, I mean, if you have just, if you got the flu and want to see the PA when he comes in the week, he's there all day on Thursdays, I believe it is now. It used to be Wednesdays. He comes out of Superior. But that's it. That's all we have. Other than that, if you get hurt or something happens, you're gonna fly out of there, probably to Phoenix.
Would you bring in all these people that have physical needs?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Depends on what their needs are and how much we can accommodate, or how much this group can accommodate. You see what I'm saying?
Probably
You know,
in-house,
right,
like they do at Recovery Health, they have
Right.
in-house
Mhm.
doctor.
So this is all,
Needs.
pardon me?
What physical needs?
Like Wounded Warriors or something like that?
Well, you're talking about veterans, older veterans, or? people-
All veterans.
All veterans, I mean,
Yeah.
like a care center, more or less?
No, I don't think it's gonna go that way. I think it's gonna be more for veteran programs and retreats.
Oh, okay.
Like PTSD issues, things like that. That's what it's gonna be.
That's what I would.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but I can tell you that nothing is settled yet. You know, we're still talking about it.
Wait, Bill, Richard,
So if it's along the retreat line, they'd probably be contracting medical staff to be a part of that staff.
I would say, and there's one thing that I didn't tell you, that when we were actually looking at like an assisted living, we're also looking at our community college for rotating nurses and things like that through there. Because we do have residences on the property. So, you know, a lot of these traveling nurses or the ones that are in school come in there and work for a day, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, and rotate out. So, I mean, there's a number of options for this place, a lot of them.
okay, Bill, you have one.
I was gonna make reference to the place, Jim Nero would be a lot better to discuss this than I am, but one of the nursing homes in the town, on the west side of town, Rim Country, is that the name of it, I guess? There's a veterans function that's got involved there, which was in the paper a while ago. I don't know if the county, I think, do that or not, but it sounds like a pretty good idea anyway.
That is directly through Rim Country Health.
Okay.
They're doing that on their own.
It's a wonderful idea though, isn't it?
Say again?
It's a wonderful idea.
Oh, it's marvelous. They're doing good things for veterans now.
Beautiful, yes, beautiful.
And that's what, you know, all these things we want to look at and talk to this group. You know, until we can, I met with this group twice now. Once in Casa Grande initially, and then we had a work session in Globe and talked to them more there. When we get them actually standing on the ground Saturday in Pleasant Valley on that admin site, that's when I can really ask them some good, solid questions. It's hard to get answers out of someone who's never really been there physically. I mean, you look at pictures all day long, but it doesn't tell the story until you're standing on it. You know, and so that's kind of what I'm allowing for and looking at doing. So we'll keep everybody updated the best we can, and it'll be coming out some more.
I'm gonna try to be there on Saturday.
Good, thank you. Yeah. The veterans lunch is at Bruzy Vineyard. So if nothing else, we'll feed you wine and see if you can get home. Well, don't listen to that, Sheriff. So, anyway. Yeah, we'll sit outside if we need to, it's all right.
Sheriff will make sure all the units are down below.
We'll just pull their keys and they can stay there at the vineyard. So anyway, does anybody have any more questions on that?
That's great.
Now, we have another 15 minutes or so.
I got a lot more to go,
Yeah,
so.
no. Well, actually,
Okay.
yeah. Do you
Well,
need
that's
20
exciting.
minutes?
It
As long
is,
as
it
you're
has
ready.
been.
It's exciting for a veteran advocate like myself. That is really exciting.
Thank you.
news.
I
And
hope it
Betty
works.
Merritt down here in Star Valley
Yeah.
has, like I said, has worked a lot of this
Mhm.
for a lot of years and can probably give a lot of good information.
Sure.
I'm going to be contacting her when I leave.
Absolutely, and have her call
Maybe
me.
have her come up
Yeah.
with this.
Or call me anytime. I can meet with her here.
Okay.
Okay, going on, the other thing, I'm glad you're here too, Sheriff, is not too long after I was in office, I was talking to the chief, police chief, your chief, here, Engler, and was talking about it, and I brought up the fact all the homeless people standing on corners around here. You know, growing up as a kid, you never seen that. They weren't here. And so I'm like, well, what happened? What started all this? Oh, you know, this or that. And we talked about it and everything. He said, but the worst part of it is the kids. I said, heck, you mean these people have kids? You know? Oh, no. Well, some might, he says, but you know, no, he says it's the homeless kids here in Payson. I said, homeless kids in Payson, Arizona? It's the last place in the world I'd ever thought there was homeless kids.
300 and some in the school district.
Yeah, well, it started out, he told me around 250. And so we went to digging on it, and we ended up finding a lady named Alec Bells. Super lady, really good lady. We had her come to the office and sit down with us one day, and quiet little lady and straight to the point, no nonsense. So we sit down, Kathy was there, my wife was there with us. We sit down, we said, Alex, I've been hearing these things. I'd like to know what the numbers are, because I'm just hearing estimates. She said, well, the last count we had, such and such, 500. And my jaw hit the table. I'm like, no way. She said, well, no, that's wrong. A little over 500, like 507. And I'm like, that's unbelievable for Payson, Arizona. So we went to work on that, and we're still working on that. Me and the mayor, we've talked about this a lot, and I really don't know what we're going to be able to do to get this totally fixed, but I can tell you that I'm going to keep trying to fix it. Now, as these kids grow up, the one thing I did understand and was told, that most of these homeless kids, let me back up, homeless has several definitions, okay? It can mean several different things. You have a lot of kids that are couch surfing or staying with an aunt or doing this and that. To me, that's not necessarily homeless. I'm looking for the ones living under the bridge, living at the river, things like that. And that number was like 60 or 70, something like that at the time, which is more than we need. So with the mayor's help and with us, with hopefully the local churches, Alex, somewhere along the way, hopefully we can come to some solution to this. I'm really not sure what that solution is going to be, but that has been an issue with us in our office since right after we took office. And so we're going to keep trying to work on that, Mayor.
One of the things that we're trying to get going on, and we're trying to pick Woody's pocket on this, but trying to establish a position, a county-wide position. How you doing, Sheriff? That's going to, that could be called the Director of Homelessness Prevention. And it's Doug Stewart that's been in here talking to you all. And about it, Doug's an expert on it. And what we're trying to do is to reestablish a thing called the continuum of care. A continuum of care, we're the third poorest county in the state. We're the only county without a continuum of care. Woody's been working hard on getting it reestablished, and I'm kind of getting in his way sometimes to try and make it happen. But Woody's got a heart for this, and he's working hard on it, and we're kind of working together. What I'm hoping will happen is that we'll be able to get the mayors, several mayors in the county, along with the county, and hire Doug Stewart as the Director of Homelessness Prevention. and also be able to coordinate getting the continuum of care back, because that'll bring resources into this county like you haven't seen in this area. So we're working together on it, and we're gonna meet with several of the mayors, right, Woody? And we're gonna see if we can collectively, if we can share a salary. And if we get a collection of mayors, it's not gonna cost that much. But we need to do something, and we need to do something with people who know how to do it. And we got that meeting on Thursday, right, the homelessness task force, right?
Yes, it's on
That's Thursday down in Donner Basin?
Yep.
Okay.
Chamber of Commerce.
10 o'clock, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay. So, but anyway, I want to give a tip of the hat to Woody, because he's really been working hard with us trying to solve this problem. Thank you, Woody.
Thank you, Mayor. He's absolutely right on this continuum of care. I guess I gotta use that. The county hasn't been under that. There's only 2 counties in the state that have an actual continuum of care, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy. But the rest of the counties in the state are what's called the balance of state. So the money is different, but we weren't even under that. And so by going in and building this coalition, normally somebody like Community Bridges or somebody else would take the lead on this to do it. But as a county, we elected to take the lead ourselves and pull all the mayors and everybody in as partners on this, as this coalition. And that's the way we're tackling it right now. We're working real hard with the guy from the state, David Bridges, and he's a real knowledgeable guy. And so if we can pull this out of the hat and get it going, it will put some money into our areas that can start helping with a lot of these issues. I don't know right now to exactly what the extent that money will be, but it's more than we've had, because we've had nothing in the past. It's all new to me. This whole program is new to me. I'm learning as we go, and it is quite involved, I can tell you that. But I do feel like we can get there. I do think we're going to get this one done, and we're going to get that going. So that'll help. That'll help the kids, hopefully. That'll help the people on the corners throughout the county. It just won't be Payson or won't be Globe. It'll be everybody in the county. So, and that's the way we're shooting for it. And I really appreciate the mayors for doing this with us. You know, since I've been in office with the other 2 supervisors, we broke down a lot of these boundaries between different towns or county or whatever. We've erased that. We don't look at that any longer. We look at it as we all need to be around the tables together talking about these things. And that's what we're trying to do, which with open meeting laws and things like that, it's tough, but we're really working on that, is to have the roundtable discussions with us, the mayors, the sheriff, all the pertinent people in our area here to discuss these issues.
And Woody, remember and remind them that a lot of the homeless are veterans.
Yeah, they are.
Living in tents. We owe them more than that. That's what I'm trying to get this done.
Yep, and it's quite right. So that's where we're at with that. Yes, sir.
Are legislators getting involved too? The
As
state
far as
legislators.
this?
As far as this, being involved in roundtable discussions?
Not yet, but they will be if I can drag them to the table, okay? Because they do need to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
You know, especially our local representatives and whatnot.
Yeah, who is that?
Like Sylvia Allen and Blackman and stuff. So those are the people who need to be sitting there with us and listening to it. So, yes, ma'am.
In my many years of working in the welfare system,
Speak up.
we dealt with, in San Diego County, dealt with a homeless problem, immense, enormous. Here, there is, I gather, a homeless issue, but I don't see, in order to start solving it, you need to stabilize the housing situation in order to work on the other issues that may be underlying the reason they're homeless.
You're right.
But I don't know of any, like, low-income type housing situations other than the senior ones here, but just like the rescue mission or whatever,
Right.
something, which I don't know if we even want to get into that.
Here's the thing, the housing issue is a whole nother deal. We could spend the rest of the night on that one.
I understand.
But it is in the works. We're actually looking at maybe doing some surveys on housing and stuff like that. But it's a problem. And it's not only here, it's in a lot of different places. So when you deal with the homelessness and all that, there's a lot of different angles to this. There's a lot of different reasons why you see these people on the corner. Some of them may not be such good deals, you know, and so some of them may be legit. And so that gets hard to sort those things out. But you got to start somewhere. You know, we have to start. And so if we don't get started, we're not going to go anywhere. And so now this is going to be our second meeting on this, and so it's moving. It's just going to take a little time. We're going to have to work out these different things and get all the mayors involved with this too. So I'm going to move on because I don't want to hold Shirley hostage here tonight.
We went a whole 45 minutes over one meeting.
Good. We might do it again tonight. So
Everybody was staying, it was good.
perfect. When I took office, there was a motel in Hayden, right on Main Street, right on the boundary between Hayden and Winkleman. It's a big building. Half of it was a motel, the other half had been a restaurant, doctor's offices, yada, yada, yada. They've been trying to tear it down for a long time because it was a mess. It was fallen down, it had been vandalized, all the wiring stripped out of it, anything of any value was stripped out of it. Parts of it was torn down and thrown over on the railroad tracks behind it, and a lot of it was blown out on the highway. Well, on these properties, for those of you who don't know, a lot of these are owned by the state and care of the county. We don't own them, the state does. But yet, we have, it's like pulling teeth to get anything from the state to help take care of this. And so we went through as many people as we could trying to get this done. Trying to get some money to help clean this up. Because in these cleanups, you have to do the abatements for asbestos, for lead, and all that. So when you start talking about the environmental impacts of that, the price goes up. So we finally had an opportunity, I did, to come up here and sit in at a roundtable discussion with the governor one day. So Kathy put together the packet on the Hayden Hotel and gave it to me, and I come packing it up here like I did the Pleasant Valley admin site. And when I was going up the steps to get in there, one of the governor's staffers, Hunter Moore, was standing on top of the steps. I told him, I said, Hunter, I need to talk with the governor for just a few minutes. I want to give him this packet on this hotel in Hayden. I'd like for him to look at it and see what he can do to help me with this, because this is a mess. Well, what is it? So I explained to him. I said, and I gave him the packet, and he looked through it. I said, it's been fallen down, it's been vandalized, it's blown out on the highway, and you own it. We own it. I said, yeah, you own it. It's owned by the state and care of the county. You own it, and we need to clean it up. Oh, he said, he looked at it again, he said, it's blown out on the highway? I said, oh yeah, there's pieces of it go out on the highway, roof and stuff. So anyway, long story short, within about 3-4 days, we had a call from ADEQ, and they had directions to help us clean this site up. So in the process of doing this, what we actually had to do is going to be cleaned up under Brownsfield grant money to the tune of, what, 70, 80?
Yeah, about 140,000.
Yeah, about, with the abatement and everything, about $140,000. And so, but what we ended up having to do in order to get the Brownsfield grant, we had to take possession of the motel. But it's all going through, the grant, or the bid has just come out and has been awarded yesterday?
Yeah, today.
Yeah, or today. So we should be able to see that one coming down. The problem with that is that's only the motel side. So in November, we acquire the other half for back taxes, or the state does. So we're gonna have it to do all over again.
The
But
county now owns it,
we do.
the whole property.
No, just that half of it, the motel part, but we're gonna end up having the other half back in November on back taxes. And it's gonna be the same scenario.
Talking about,
Pardon me?
what is the other half you're talking about?
The other half would have been a doctor's office, a restaurant, stuff. It's all one
Yeah,
big building.
yeah, one
Half of it motel, the other half this other stuff. So under this scenario, when we tear this down, it can only be used for two purposes. One is drainage and the other is transportation. So what we're looking at doing is turning that into a big parking lot right there. And they have the ore cart trail that comes all the way down from Superior and all through that. And we'll probably put a little monument deal in there. Yes, sir.
Wouldn't it be a lot easier for the county just to declare it a health hazard and demolish it now?
Yes and no. You know, I'm pretty practical, and my thought was you run a dozer through it and it's done. But that doesn't work when you start talking asbestos and lead. And so we got hung up in
Well,
them.
you sue the state for that amount.
Pardon me?
You sue the state of Arizona for those costs.
Well, it's a good thought, I guess, but no. But what we ended up doing was just going ahead and doing the abatement on it and all that, and getting it done. So it's done, but there's a lot more to do there on that one. But that's an issue that we finally got off the books on that one too. Yes, Doug?
Yeah, well, when it comes to asbestos, it's easy to violate the law for EPA stuff. I asked a builder for the concrete pipes, for irrigation pipes he was tearing out to put a high-rise in. He says, yeah, bring a trailer, you can have it. These are 8-foot long, 2,000-pound pipes. And before I could get there, the county came by and said, those need to be tested for asbestos. So sure enough, they chipped some off, sent it to the lab at their expense, and wouldn't you know, they had asbestos. So I couldn't get them. They had to bring the men in the suits, load in a special dump truck, take it to a special processing facility, just because of the asbestos laws and mitigation. So it's hard to deal with, and if it's that old.
It is tough. So that one's done, but there's a lot more issues down there to deal with, a lot of buildings and things that need to come down. I'm gonna jump in this real quick and go through the last, because there's one part of this I really want to spend some time with you guys on. I don't know if you've seen it, but we put that website out, the county website, the Discover Gila County. And so I'm hoping that's gonna be a big plus and really help on everything there.
We have some little stickers for the rear
We
window of
do.
your car.
We do.
So people can, at Walmart that are visitors parking next to you can look it up.
Yep.
Came to us.
Yeah, and so that's up and running, and so far doing really good. I'm gonna get into into this
They
next
brought
deal.
us.
So, we put in and voted in what we call capital projects. And I'm glad the sheriff's here in case we have questions for him, but the county has a lot of issues as far as court space, office space, offices, and so forth, and jails in particular too. So what we did was, we had been working on this for quite some time. The judges that came to us needing court space up here for jury selection and court, where they could do to hold more of it up here than everybody traveling the globe. So we made the commitment, we were gonna do what we can to help them. So we dove in there and went to looking at different buildings and options we could lease until we got our property developed or whatever it was we're gonna do and build new offices. Well, the leases would run anywhere from $1.5 million to $3 million for 5 years for that kind of space. And the modifications on the buildings because of courts and all that was a lot of money. We couldn't do it. We said, no, we don't want to do that, just for a lease. So we kept looking at it, kept talking about it. We looked at our property that we have right over here, right across from the college, next to the Gila Pueblo College, along 260. We have about 27 acres right there. And so we got looking at it, what it would take to develop that property, put all the infrastructure in that property, start with the courtrooms and jail, and build the rest of the complex from there, and then do away with some of our buildings, all of these other buildings we have in Basin, sell them. Well, in order to do that, infrastructure is gonna cost a lot of money to get started. I, for one, was not comfortable going that deep in debt to get this going. So we kept looking at it. So the manager went to work on this capital projects. And so what you're gonna see happening, because we voted on it and approved it. Today we had a work session on the bonds and everything it's gonna take to do it. It's a $10 million project. There's gonna be $5 million up here and like $4.8 million in Globe. I'm just gonna go through, if you want exact figures, I've got them here, but I'm just gonna tell you roughly the figures. The sheriff's jail, we're looking at a little over $1 million in modifications on it and bringing it up to snuff. And it needs to happen. That's just a liability waiting to happen. That lawsuit would be far more than $1 million. So we're putting that into the jail to get him up and running where he needs to be. Probation and detention, we ended up buying another building over here on Cedar. They're moving their office over there. That's gonna be part probation / teen center / timeout space, computer space for kids or anybody that needs to use it like that. I'm really excited about that. I think that's gonna be a huge plus for Payson. Then we're gonna come in here on the corner, across from the jail at our courthouse, and we're gonna start changing some offices around there. The recorder in the assessor's office, the modular there, it's going. It's gonna be gone. That's gonna be turned into a parking lot. There's gonna be a new building built right there where the health department is. That's all gonna be new. That's gonna end up being some court space and what we need in that. The courthouse itself is gonna be changed, I believe, to some offices. And then this building right here, there's gonna be a little bit of remodels on it, and there's gonna be more of the county folks moving into that. That's up here. In Globe, on the other end, we're still looking at, a little over $1 million down there on the Globe jail. And then we have to put in an animal shelter in Globe. The one that we have, there's an individual that owns the building, and the cemetery owns the land. Well, the individual wants the building, and the cemetery wants the land. So we gotta go. So we looked at different places and ways of doing this, and what it came down to is we have the land at the fairgrounds out there. So we picked a spot in there, and we're gonna be putting in a new animal shelter in there. The cost of animal shelters is unreal on this. We're looking at just about $3 million to build an animal shelter right there. And that was after we trimmed $1 million off of the engineers that was designing it and the requirements that they were wanting to stick on it. We said, no, we're not doing that. And keep whittling while you're at it. And so we're looking at that. All these projects is gonna take care of all of our issues that we have right now. That's gonna wipe the slate clean for the county on that, and hopefully prepare us in the future for whatever comes up. Shirley?
You said that you were gonna change the existing Payson courthouse into offices, so where is gonna be a court?
We're building it.
We'll build it.
It'll be a new building.
Okay,
Mhm.
and where is that?
No, the Napa building's gonna be converted. We're gonna put I think our health people are going in Napa. And so that's been an issue we've dealt with from time I took office, and the sheriff, you're trying to work with that too, and we have a big investment in that already. So to put any kind of court stuff into that, we couldn't do it. Structurally, we couldn't do it. Right, and so, but to go ahead and remodify it for just offices, normal offices, we can do that. And so we're gonna go ahead and put a little bit of money in that and use it. And then there's gonna be a big shuffle of offices around, Shirley, on that.
Fun.
Yeah,
Musical chairs.
yeah.
Do
Jim?
we own the buildings here?
Yes,
Okay.
we do.
Makes sense.
We do. Now, one thing I'm gonna tell you guys is, from my angle right now, we're actually kind of looking at this acreage out here. One thing that's getting floated around is to work with the community college and have a little chunk of that corner or something for a provisional program, where they could put up a shop and teach like electrical, HVAC, welding, things like that. We're looking at that. Now, the rest of it, if we're not gonna do anything else with the rest of it, I wanna sell it and put it towards our debt.
Yeah.
That's what I wanna do with that. And so that's what you're gonna see over here, hopefully. We had been working with the Dean and Globe on the community colleges to try and find something up here for a provisional setup. It's tough. It's hard. You know, in Globe, we got lots of buildings. Up here, we don't have so many, and they're expensive. And so that's one thing that's getting floated around right now, you know, whether it's 2 or 3 acres, 5 acres, whatever it is, you know, that they would need, we can put that in place, so. You guys have any questions on this? And I'm gonna tell you that in doing all this, we're not raising taxes. Taxes are not gonna be raised.
Amen.
And so this, yeah, that was one thing that, there was 2 things I was really adamant about. Anything over 10 million I wasn't comfortable with, and we weren't raising taxes to get this done. And so this is a 20-year setup, but like that property, if we're able to sell that and put it in a special account that'll pay for this, that's gonna help. Anything we can do. The way we're financing it, I just learned today, we're gonna have some different savings on that compared to other times when interest rates basically on that kind of money are cheaper. So that's gonna save us some money. And so that should help us to do that. And so this, yes, sir.
Please pass it on to whoever is interested, that buildings for shop classes don't have to be a Taj Mahal.
Right.
They can be steel buildings.
They can, and they're better off being steel buildings. I don't know if you guys have seen the one in Claypool down there. It's the old armory, military armory. It's a Quonset hut, you know, and it's pretty wide and it's long, and they've got one really nice setup in there. The mines have donated a lot of that equipment that those folks use in their training. It's really nice, and it's sturdy and strong, and so, yeah, absolutely. We don't need anything fancy for any of that at all. Yes?
Are you involved at all with bringing redundancy cable in so we don't have another shut off again like I had this afternoon?
I understand the county.
Because it's not only dangerous, it's inconvenient.
You know, your question is valid on this. Your question is good. Payson needs redundancy, and I will tell you, a lot of other places do too. But I have been in the talks with the broadband. I've sat in on those meetings. One thing that we had done almost a year ago, I guess, is we had joined with Navajo Consortium through the E-rate and put all that together. The money was awarded to a contract outfit named Red Rock, and then it got tied up in litigation. And what that was is through the E-rate program, they were bringing broadband to all the schools and libraries in Gila County. And so they were going all over, and Navajo County is all one big package. It's all federal money. I was all for that, because when they run that broadband like that, they run a great big line, and there's about 10 or 12 of those little bitty lines in there that they're going to use, and everything else is available to people. And so that was the way we were looking at helping get this done and not costing the taxpayers of Gila County any money. Now that fell through, but before it fell through, we backed up. We could see it coming, and we said, okay, we're going to create our own consortium. And so we created the Gila's consortium, put it through the works, and it was approved, and the contract's been awarded. Just waiting for the money to come down. And so, you know, Suddenlink, CenturyLink, one of those. Anyway, they're coming off the rim with this, Cable One, coming off with it. They've got the contract through the Gila Consortium, the way I understand it. And so when the money comes out on that, they're going to be turning and going to all the different libraries and schools throughout Gila County with broadband. Now, from a money standpoint, as far as the redundancy and what's in the works today, like you're hearing about, you know, because they're saying it's going to cost tons of money, and broadband does, we have not committed anything to that. And the reason being, there's a couple things. Me personally, I feel like it needs to be federal money that pays for this, not tax dollars. Secondly, it's hard for me to commit, you know, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million of your tax money to a company, Cable One or whoever it is, that they're gonna reap all the benefits from it. The county and you taxpayers aren't gonna see anything except for the use of the broadband, which is a help. That's what needs to happen. But as far as the money goes, we're not getting any money back on any of that. And so I've held pretty tight to that. Now, the other supervisors, I can't talk for them, but that's my standpoint. And so what'll happen now is this will come through, and then all the libraries and schools will get it. And what they're also saying is that with the amount of pairs in that line, it'll go to residences too. It's just a matter of time. Now, what's coming off the rim, and I don't know if you know this, is for businesses only right now. That's another thing. It's not for the general public, for residences, it's just for businesses. And so, I don't know how that's gonna work for them, but that's where it's at. And
That will free up some of the existing cable for residents.
hope so, Doug, but you know, it hasn't really been talked about all that much or pointed out a whole lot, but I would hope so, you know.
What
So,
that means is the residences will go out and the businesses will stay on. If the cable gets cut before it's available to the
You mean the
residents.
squirrel?
Or somebody's back
so,
The squirrel?
But the speed will increase.
should.
There'll be more
Sure.
broadband there.
I can tell you guys one thing for certain, everywhere where I've been, which is from one side of the United States to the other, this discussion is everywhere. It's the first thing that's talked about. Whenever you get into these national conventions or you're talking with different groups, I'm on an ag group, a national ag group, that's part of the discussion all the time, is the broadband. The broadband is an issue everywhere. And it's a huge cost, but it needs to be fixed, it needs to happen. You know, you bring more broadband into Payson, Globe, wherever it's at, you can see more companies hopefully coming in here and more jobs being created and things like that. That's what I hope to see out of all this. And go for it. Janet?
I don't know if this is on your agenda tonight, but I have major concerns about the Fry Good Earth Power thing. It was just in the paper 2 weeks ago that it's gonna happen now, 10 years later. Well, we've already put up 25 million. In 2016, we gave another 10 million. They've done 8,000, maybe 10,000 acres in 10 years. So we're down to burning our forests instead of harvesting our forests. I did some research on this Good Earth Power. They're based in the Sultanate of Oman in the Persian Gulf, and they're backed by Zawawi Group, which is tied to Oman's ruling family. He came in here and promised to give 50% of his pork fry profits to local businesses, and we have nothing.
Right.
And now we're gonna do business with these people again through the Forest Service? I mean,
Janet,
why aren't they fired?
I'm not a fan of
It
forfeit.
is.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. It has some huge problems.
It needs to
Forfeit.
stop.
It does. Huh? George?
Yeah, has Payson got Blue Ridge water yet?
I don't know if they have yet. I don't know. Tom, have you?
We just
No.
got there.
Oh, it was supposed to have been May.
This week.
Compatibility of the water in the ground with the water from the reservoir.
So you just about got it
It's
complete?
about ready to go. They're saying by the end of June it'll be up and running.
Okay.
And they
Did you hear that?
And it better be because Buzz Walker's contract's up.
Might have to extend it. So, Janet, back to the fry deal.
Yes, I
It's
think
a problem. It's got big holes in
It's
it.
serious.
It is. And
We talk about firewise all over the town and firewise this and fire. We live in a forest of millions of acres that now the Forest Service is burning the forest instead of logging it. I mean, is there not a United States logging company that's qualified to do this?
not very many. Not very many.
Well, that's
And
environmentalism.
it all goes back to the environmental movement and all that put the loggers out of business in the 90s, right, John? Yeah, and so what has happened is it's such a huge investment to crank that back up.
Yeah.
They're not comfortable doing it without commitments from the Forest Service. And the Forest Service can't make solid commitments because everything is litigated. Go
All we
ahead.
want is a 20-year contract. That will offset the capital investment that is required. And I know 2 companies that are doing a small amount of it now, but they were willing to do
On 20 years.
with a 20-year, that way they can hire more people and
Right.
increase the amount of capital investment they have in the equipment.
But here's the,
Equipment goes in and,
right.
you know,
Oh, it's big dollars. But here's the problem, Brenda, that I'm seeing. Even though the government will say, yes, we'll look at a 20-year commitment, doesn't stop litigation in 5 years. You know, they get sued and shut down, and then even though the government has good intentions, but yet somebody's just put out $25 million on a new setup.
well, they've never given a 20-year.
No, they
contract.
haven't.
So you don't know that.
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
thinking,
I know, I have
and-
worked with those people, I understand. I
But in
understand
10
it.
years, they've
Yeah.
got 8,000.
You know.
How much is that for 8,000 acres, $25 million? What is that, an acre?
oh yeah,
A lot more than we
it's
used to
huge.
pay.
You know, and I agree with you, Janet, we shouldn't be burning the woods up, we should be milling that timber and logging it, you know.
I got 2 articles I printed for you.
We do.
Making power, they're gonna convert one of the,
Is it
Troya
Choya?
power plant things
Yeah.
and be able to burn the slash.
Yeah, and raise our electric rates so that they can do that.
Well, you know what, it would be worth the $4 extra on my bill to have that burned rather than my house be totally burned down.
The problem with the, unless they set the incinerator and everything up locally, it's the trucking that's the issue. I've said in those meetings, and they can only go so far until it's not worth doing, and they're there. So
Yeah,
to fall
Williams,
off the
we're talking
rim,
about Williams.
pardon me?
Having the thing in Williams and
Well-
trucking it from here to Williams?
Well, you know, from our angle, we're saying, why don't you have it here?
Yeah.
Set it up here,
Okay.
you know, and
That's
so,
what, this is where the forest is.
but Janet, that's a big issue. John?
Last thing in the world that I would do is probably stand up for the Forest Service, because I disagree with most of what they do. But I will tell you this, a few years back, about 25 years ago, I met with some people, among some of them were lawyers that worked on stuff in the western states that had to do with 40. 240 some odd timber sales were put up over a period of a year and a half or 2 years. And they were blocked by lawsuits from environmentalists. But when they started tracking these lawsuits, there was a student in a dormitory in New Jersey had stopped all of them. That's how easy it is.
It is, and so, and I understand why people are reluctant to put that kind of money into something that, you know, and Brenda's right, we haven't tried the 20-year deal. It hasn't been tried, but I'm not sure it's going to be because of the lawsuits, and we still have a huge environmental side out there that appeal and fight everything we do.
That's where suicide comes in.
Yeah, so that's a whole big issue, but your idea on the fourth fry is right.
All right, guys.
I'm done. You got any
It is 20
questions?
minutes
Thanks.
till.